Well, we're so lucky to have with us today Renee Henson. He is the CEO of Xshore. And Jesse, I think you remember this company. This is an electric boat company. Now, you wanted the Cybertruck to be an electric boat, but I don't think it is.
It does have waiting mode.
True,
but it
doesn't act like these boats
It's
do.
not supposed to.
Renee, thank you so much for being with us today.
And thanks for having me, Zach and Jesse.
So, yeah, Jesse has always wanted an electric boat. We were thinking of maybe converting a pontoon boat to electric, but we haven't gotten around to it yet. So maybe our only opportunity in the next year or so is going to be to get onto one of these. Check this out, Jesse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, Renee, tell us about some of the boats that you guys are making.
Yeah, so right now we have two platforms, so a 6.5 platform and an 8-meter platform. So you can almost look at it like Tesla. They have the Tesla S, the 3, and so on. On those two modular models, we have an Xshore 1 and a more exclusive version of the Xshore 1. So we have two models on the 6.5 model. And on the 8-meter platform, we have 3 models. So we have the original Elex, which you're probably familiar with, which our founder, Conrad Bergström, created because he looked at the boat industry and said, I can't find a boat that meets my needs. And basically what he meant with that is like he is a person that is born at the water, and he didn't feel that he could drive a boat every day with his children, dropping 20 to 30% of the gas right in the water, fume, and then noise pollution. So he decided then that I will create my own boat company and build a boat that can deliver up my needs, but still the performance. On that platform, we have now also created a pro cabin boat, which the first one we sold here in Sweden as a taxi boat. That boat is fascinating because right now it's driving kids to school every day. I wish I had a boat like that going to school every day. And that boat, what's fascinating with the pro market is that you can get between 20 to 70% subsidies in Europe for buying that boat. So when you are an owner of an old combustion boat, or so diesel or gas, the mathematics in itself is one thing, and it pays for itself. But when you can add the performance and also no sound, so the kids can actually have a conversation without yelling at each other, while enjoying the sled ride through nature, it is a completely different ball game. Then we have another one that is a Pro T-Top Open, which is also built on the Elex model, the 8-meter platform. What we see that is a boat where you can compare to maybe a Cybertruck, Jesse, so maybe you get to enjoy that. It's the first kind of pickup or a Bronco truck on the road, on the water. And it's very utilitarian. And what we've seen when you look at universities in the US that is studying marine biology or science, they need a boat that is utilitarian. So they can just throw all their stuff in the back. It can get you through very rough water, but also have the range to deliver what you need. So we see a big market opening there. At the same time, we see this boat really much working really well for all ports. So taxi boats at the port, service boats, and also security boats. Because electricity is already at all this port anyway. So we're seeing a lot of interest from that. And we see also the Inflation Reduction Act in the US now coming into play for all these ports as well.
So here in the US, we could take advantage of some of these tax reductions on electric boats? Oh, wow.
So when you run a business and you're buying that boat for the business and replacing it to decarbonize, you have the full opportunity to do that.
Oh, wow. So listen up, commercial fishermen and tour boat operators. Wow. You'd mentioned another thing, which I hadn't even thought about, which is we did an episode on electric school buses a while back. And we talked about the effects of diesel fumes on children's brains and how it lowers their IQ because you're making them dumber. And it's making us all dumber when we breathe that stuff in.
And that's usually with a school bus, which is, a vehicle, and it has windows and it's fully enclosed, and it's not a boat. And I think that a lot of people are typically used to boats being a little bit smellier than a school bus. So, I mean, that must be an even bigger difference between an electric school boat and a diesel-powered school boat.
I mean, you and I both grew up sailboating, and I think the reason for that was we don't like diesel. and that's the only way for us to get out in the water and enjoy it without the fumes was a sailboat.
And without a paddle.
Right. And without a paddle, true. So this is a way to get out on the water with the two things I hate most about boating, which is the diesel fumes and the diesel noise. And now that's all gone. I mean, tell me more about that, because I feel like this is kind of like with Tesla's, what we call butts and seats. You try and describe a Tesla to somebody, and it's really, really hard to do until you just put them in the Tesla, and then they're like, oh, I get it. Is that the same problem you kind of have with electric boats, is that you can't really describe it until you experience it?
Yes, I can just say it is spot on. It is, when the Tesla came out the first time, how many didn't have friends at work that bought a Tesla S, and you got in it, and it was like, wow, amazing performance. The technology is seamless. And you don't have any noise. And the same thing is with this boat, but it's just amplified even more, because as two sailors, as you are, with an electrical boat, you have the same feeling. You are in the nature. You're one with nature. You don't hear any noise, because on an average, a combustion boat has 70 to 80 decibel, and that is actually damaging for your ears, and that will also affect life on land, but also underwater, as we know is a significant issue. So as you mentioned, Zach, with the fisheries, they have also made studies now that fish stop eating when they hear the engine. So fisheries now in itself has a good investment case just to invest in this. At the same time, when you are an electrical boat, the difference between a sailboat is like when you don't need an oar to going, and you don't need to work hard to sail. So it's more about the whole thing about being in the water, enjoying the water, enjoying your friends and family, and cruise through it and be one with it. So when you get people on this boat, people go, wow, I totally get it. And one thing we also see is that people go like, same thing with Tesla S when they came. They feel the torque right away, and it's just like amazing. And then suddenly also they figure out that boating is not about going from A to B. It's the whole experience. Because right now, when you go with your family and friends from where you pick up the boat to the port to wherever you're going, it's a quiet moment because you can't talk. Now you can sit and listen to Grateful Dead. You can listen to your friends, and the journey is the best part because you're on the water. So what we see is the conversion rate is when people get on the water, they buy the boat. So we can also see it's a very similar to solar panel. So if someone buys a solar panel in your neighborhood, most likely 3 of them will buy it next year. And what you see here too, what you saw with also Tesla, with X-Shore, you can see that an electrical boat, the cost of owner a boat is very low. Because with a combustion boat, you need to service it for every 200 hours you use it. We don't do that. And in Norway and Sweden right now, you actually, when you don't use your boat, it's connected to the grid. So you're getting paid. So if you live in the northern part of North America, so it's like Vermont or Michigan or whatever, 6 months of the year, if not more, the boat is standing still. And you pay for winterization. Now you get paid for winterization.
Wow. I didn't think about
So
that.
you're
It's a
using-
mobile battery.
It's a stationary battery in the winter.
Yes.
When you're not riding
I didn't even
it.
think of it. It's in your driveway. Just plug it into your house and you got 150 kilowatt hours of
That's
battery.
awesome.
Wow. I mean, there's so many things there I want to unpack. One of them is that here in the United States, is probably true in Europe too. A lot of the lakes now are banning motorboats because of, not because of the boats, but because of the diesel engine in them. It's just loud and polluting. And I feel like a lot of those lakes will go back to allowing boats when they're electric. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. We see the same thing here in Europe. So you can use a couple of very concrete example, which is a famous landmark in the US as well, from Europe. So Como Lake in Garda in Italy, if you want to buy a new boat now, it has to be electric. You see it with several lakes in Germany, same in Spain, same in Turkey, and now actually in Norway, they're saying that boats that are between 15 meter to 0, workboats, has to be electric. So that might be already from next year, all new boats that are workboats has to be electric. So we see legislation coming on land very quickly. And since the EV adoption is pretty high on cars, the same infrastructure providers are coming into this space to set them up at harbor. And it's much easier because boats usually come out from their own harbor and come back to the same one in the end. Or they travel a certain pattern where the cost of building that infrastructure is very small.
Is that one of the pushbacks you get from potential customers before they really get in the boat? Is, I would imagine it would be the charging part, right? It's the range anxiety that you get with EVs. Like, okay, I'm going to go out in the water and then I'm going to run out of juice. What kind of feedback do you get from customers about that?
Yeah, that was actually one of the things we studied, made a study on when we develop our boats, and also the capacity and range of the boat. And what we learned very quickly is that the normal user pattern of 80% of people would never ever need to worry about range anxiety. Of course, if you live in Miami and if you're going to Bahamas, this is not your boat for you. It's the same thing as a Cybertruck is not for everyone, but you need to know what you're using it for. And for 80% of the user case, these boats are perfect. And when it comes to the range, what we have in our boat is that our boats are like a Tesla. So we do all our updates on software, or if it's anything wrong with the boat, we can sit and actually see what's going on. So we have also a system. So if you're getting too far away from where you need to park your boat, the boat go into survive mode. And that means it takes you down to 5 knots and take you back to where you need to be at. And you can even call our field service people and they can open that up too. And so you can go faster back. We just want to make sure that you are safe and sound.
That's awesome.
And then what we also communicate with them is that in our boat, you can have a supercharger, but you can also have a 240 as we have in your boat, but also we have 120. And what's beautiful about it is that you can think about a gas station can be closed, but it's always electricity somewhere. And you can get it from your house. And say where I park my boat, I don't have my supercharger. So I have only 240 volts. And when I've been out with my boat for 6-8 hours, I go back and I park it. And when I come up and pick it up at 10 o'clock the other day, it's fully charged.
So it's a lot like EVs at your home, where 90% of the time you're just charging at home.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense.
But all right, enough of all this, nice, what a great thing this is. We're taking boats, which are in water, and electricity.
Oh, they don't mix.
Water and electricity don't mix. I've heard this so many times, like when I'm plugging in at the supercharger when it's raining. They say, are you allowed to do that? Because I heard that water and electricity don't mix. So how do you make sure that water and electricity don't mix? Because, I've heard it's
diesel
such
and
a problem.
oil mix?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Jesse and Zach. I always wonder how you can sit and smoke in a car because it's gasoline there. It's going to explode any second. No, with electrical boats, it's the same thing with having electricity at home. Your house doesn't explode just because it's thunder and lightning out there. And electrical boats go through the same strict certification process as everything else. In Europe now we have the biggest certification organization called DNVL, and everything goes through the same systems. And the provider of this electrical system and batteries and drivetrains and all of this, they are also going through the same certification and are providing for households, for electrical cars, bikes, stereos, you name it. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Well, and I mean, I think that we can agree that unless you're in a canoe, if there's a boat that has lights and that has navigational systems, that there's going to be electricity on board anyway. And we've sort of figured out how to keep the wet part out of the boat. That's kind of a critical piece of it. So I feel like there's a lot of people who will take common sense isms and try and apply them to, just like, with a little bit of thought, you go, oh, I see. Right. There's a thing called a hull, and that keeps the water out.
I got so excited when I was on your website that I started to kind of pick my color boat and check out, and I noticed that there's a captain's watch. Can you explain what that is?
So this is the
captain's watch.
So this is the captain watch that I had on my arm. I mean, and I put it away so I don't make more sound. But what we try to do is very much like Tesla. So X-Shore lives a lot by the same principles. It is about technology, seamless technology. So both people and technology should be seamless. It should be about functional performance and sustainable performance. And with the watch, it's all about starting to tap into simplifying your life, but also increasing your safety. So when I'm out driving the boat, it is torque on this boat. So if my son say, Papa, can you go and check the fender? And he go full speed and I fall overboard, then the watch stops the boat.
Wow.
So it's kind of like your fob almost.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or if I, for example, are getting ready to tie the boat and get ready to go out, instead of having to go and hit the screen to start the boat, I can start it from my watch.
Wow.
Or I can start it from my app. And I can also sit at home with my app to see if, is my boat charged? Is there anything wrong? So I don't come down to port to pick up my boat and then or marina, and then it's not working. Because how fun is it when you invited 10 friends on a boat ride at 10 o'clock on a Saturday and the boat is not working?
That's cool. So it's right there on your wrist. Now, this doesn't feel all that common that many boat manufacturers are going to go to this level. I feel like a lot of boat manufacturers are a big, facility where they put together a big fiberglass mold and they make, hulls and stuff like that. And it's usually up to the owner of the thing what kind of engines they want, what kind of navigational systems that they want, and stuff like that. And it's usually not as an integrated solution. But in this case, you can't really just strap on an electric motor because you need batteries in the boat. And that kind of has to be designed for this specific boat in mind because you need a lot of batteries to get this thing going. So does this mean that you have to be a little bit smarter of a company than your typical boat manufacturer who's basically just going to be gluing a bunch of fiberglass together?
Yeah, I will say that the complexity what goes into doing this from the beginning is different because there's no blueprint, right? They have had a horse and carriage for a long time, to your point, Jesse. And at the same time, they have had a heavy engine in the front and the car in the middle that they need to balance out. What we did instead, when we saw what Tesla did and the technology came, and that scale is going to be there, so we can actually produce the best product that a customer can have at the best price, and also ensuring that it's sustainable and high performing. That's what we built it on. So what we rather did, instead of saying, here's an engine, let's build a boat around it, we said let's build a boat with the drivetrain in the middle, just like Tesla did. So the balance point is all the way in the bottom. So the boat also floats better through water and handles through water. And also what we do very differently than other producer of boats, if you can say it like that, is that we do pre-preg and we produce pre-preg internally. And that means that weight is significantly lighter, and also the performance of how it handles through water is much better. And that's also the reason why our boats win the best motorboats, the best boat of the year, because it performs much better, because it's just built, like you said, Jesse. Everything is built from thinking about, okay, if you could start from the beginning, how would the ideal boat be built? And we put everything together in our factory. And also our factory is very similar to Tesla. It is a blueprint assembly line production, which means that it's consistent, high quality, and when you build XYZ product, you get scale benefit. When you go to most other factories, they build them by hand. And that means that when you produce more boats, it becomes more complexity and higher costs. And you can also see that the reason why is that we are now also the first company that can produce a fully electrical boats that won the best motorboat award, a best boat award, at the same price as comparable combustion boats today.
Wow. So I want to talk about price for a second here, because I feel like with EVs, there's this problem where you tell people there's no maintenance, electricity is cheaper than gas, but they can't keep all these things in their head at once. So they'll say to you, yeah, but doesn't your electric bill go up? And it's like, but I don't pay any gas. So can you give viewers an idea of what, I guess, expenses they're going to save on, or what their maintenance costs are going to, happen? Because you're right, with an electric car, we no longer talk about timing belts and
oil changes
and all that stuff. Like, that's all gone. And I assume that's true with your boats, because as you said, most boats, after a couple hundred hours, you got to completely rehaul the engine and do all this work. And you don't even want to go out in the boat most times. It's like, oh, do I really want to enjoy this beautiful day? Because now I'm going to put hours on my boat.
Yeah, no, I can begin with maybe a very concrete example that happened a couple of weeks ago. So our founder, Conrad Bergström, he took the ambassador of America in Stockholm out for a boat ride. And they went out and they probably did 6-hour ride, which was beautiful, great day. And when they come back to the marina, the very polite ambassador asked Conrad, so how much do I owe you? Just to that principle, because you know that a 6-hour drive could be $500. And Conrad, first he didn't understand it, and then he was like, oh, I get it. He said, so my electricity bill, that will be 80 cents on each one of us. and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, of course, but it is what it is. And if you think about it, if you need to total service your engine for every 200 use on a combustion engine, that's going to be expensive. On an electrical boat, you do a little bit glycol, put the lock lid on again, and you pat it on the back, and you say, keep on going. And then you go on your iPhone, and you update the software on your screen over the air.
Wow.
And it just happened automatically, just like your iPhone or in the Tesla. It's just the whole hassle of having a boat is what we try to get away. And that's the reason why the model are also modular, which means that on my boat I can turn it into a fishing boat. I can turn it into a wakeboarding boat. I can make it into a diving module with just moving a couple of things away, just like a ski rack or a bicycle rack or whatever, which you can't do on a regular boat.
All right. Well, I know a lot of our viewers are in Sweden, but a lot are in the U.S., and they're probably bummed right now because you're a Swedish company, so they can't check out your boats, right?
We have a good news for you then, Jesse and Zach. We have now started to distribute our boats significantly in the US as well.
Yes.
We have set up our US office in Florida, and we will be very happy to serve any customer in the US right now. We have 6 dealers, very much from Seattle down to California. Then we have a couple of them in Florida, and we're setting up also several of them on the East Coast. And we have a very good relationship and partnership with Safe Harbor. They have 137 marinas. They have already purchased 9 of our boats. And they're also looking at now increasing more of their boats into their tender solution.
Wow. So if people watching want to take a test ride, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. And we have a section on our website too, where you can contact our associates, and we will be reaching back to you in 24 hours and making sure that we can set up a test ride.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds pretty good.
So, I mean, I guess we got to plan another Florida road trip.
I know, definitely.
We will welcome you at any of those locations. One of the things that is special with electrical boats, which is becoming also very popular as tenders, not maybe that the market is so big, but it talks a little bit about electricity versus gasoline. So today, most tenders that goes into yachts, they are gasoline driven. That means when you put the boat back into the yacht, you need to empty it for gas. And I wonder where that gas goes sometimes. And then when you want to put it back on the water, you have to fill it up again. With an electrical boat, you just put it in because the boat is on a generator anyway. So you charge it while you're inside of it, while you can get on the water and travel into shore with no sound, no smell, and no pollution.
Wow.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit, speaking of no sound, no smell, no pollution, talk about solar. Do any of your boats come with solar on them?
Right now, we haven't put solar on them, Jesse. And the reason why is because we wanted to first focus on making sure that we perfectionized our hull and our technology and software. Now that we see that solar panels are coming online, that actually moves the needle, we are starting to look at it. Particularly when we look at our cabin boats, because the whole roof can be filled with it. And that means that if you go roughly around 5 to 7 knots, it can almost maintain itself without using anything.
Wow.
It's when you start going down to 17 knots or 30, that's when you see that it can't do it. But most people, when you actually own an electrical boat, even though you can go 30 or 50 knots, since you don't hear the sound anymore, you actually enjoy just going slowly through nature.
When you do get prospective customers on board the boats that have been boating for a while in traditional boats, I'll bet, like Tesla's, that they're surprised by the torque and so forth. But what are the misconceptions that they have? Are there other misconceptions that they had about electric boats that kept them from being interested?
Yeah, initially most of it was range in the beginning, and as you pointed out earlier, Zach, it's like, how do I charge my boat? And when you very easily sit down and just walk them through it, it's a no-brainer. And what we also see is that electrical boat is also introducing a lot of new people to boating. What we see is that they wouldn't want to buy a boat earlier because of 30% gasoline in the water, fumes, noise pollution, and all of this. But now they have a boat that can serve their needs without jeopardizing this part of it. And we also see that previous sailors, which you are aware of, they have a little battle with combustion boats, have now found new friends. So it's a new family of electrical boats and sailors.
That's nice.
So let me ask you how you do charge the boat, because I think for a lot of people who know that electricity and water don't mix, I think that it can be kind of scary. They think that if they're going to drop something in the water, that they could kill everybody in a mile radius and the whole lake is going to, all the fish are going to float up like it's some kind of cartoon. How do you plug it in, and then how do you make sure that everything like that happens safely? So
going back to what Jesse said, just to maybe use very layman terms at home. So when you have a vacuum cleaner, you pull the cord, you put it in the wall, and that connection you have to the boat, which come with it, is a converter. You don't throw in the water, but you put it over the boat, and into the boat, and you just plug into the boat. And when you buy the boat, the sales representative walk you through a checklist of things that you need to be familiar with as a new owner of electric and no combustion. And those steps are very simple. And the reason why I use almost a silly example as a vacuum cleaner, that's how it is. When I come to the marina where I am, it is a fuse box, it is a cord in the wall. If it's lightning and thunder, the fuse goes. The fish do not magically come out of the water, or the boat doesn't blow up.
And so range-wise, I was noticing that the two models I was looking at, there's a 50 nautical mile range on, I believe it's the X-Shore 1, 100 miles on the Elex 8000, I believe.
Correct.
So, I mean, these are ranges that let you do quite a bit of cruising. Now, obviously, it depends on your speeds and so forth, but I think a lot of people think, oh, it's an electric boat, so I'm only going to be able to go for half an hour. And that's just not true anymore.
No, it's so far away from the truth. When I'm with my family and all my dogs, and if I go on the X-Shore 1 or the other one, we sometimes my sons, we go in the X-Shore 1 because it's like driving a Tesla, and it's a lot of fun. And usually kids that are 14 and 16, they don't like to just 7 knots. They want to show that this boat is faster in acceleration. It is faster at top speed than most boats. So that's not the case. So when I go out to wakeboard with them and their friends, we are out there for 3 hours. And when we do that, what's important for people to remember also, if you like wakeboarding, or if you're not that good at it, or you're getting older like me, getting out of the water with an electrical boat, because the torque is much easier because it pulls you out quicker. But even though you do that all the time, up and off, you need to really go for 4 hours if you want to do that and run out of juice. And so far with my kids, which are quite fit, and their friends, we haven't gone like, oh, we got to go back right now, because it's more that they are, I'm tired, I want food, I want ice cream, or maybe dad wants something else to drink.
So talk to me about disruption here. We're on disruptive investing, and I believe that this is going to disrupt the market just like EVs do. I feel like there's this S-curve of adoption for EVs, and I feel like for boats, you're going to have the same S-curve, but you're just shifted in time because it took a few more years before we got to starting, right? And so where do you think you are on that S-curve? I mean, do you believe me that we're going to disrupt like this on an S-curve? And if so, where do you think we are on that S-curve?
I will absolutely say that it will happen. That is no question at all. And we touched on it earlier, Zach and Jesse, where we talked about legislation alone. And the fact that you see this high adoption of electrical car, electrical bikes, and also now you see companies like Beta in Vermont on the airplanes as well. So and they're getting also a lot of support from military and UPS. So the question is not there anymore. And we see also battery capacity is growing tremendously, and prices are coming down, which means that in the end of the day that you can buy an electrical boat at the same price as a combustion boat. What you can't do with a combustion boat then say that if the sticker price is the same, the cost of owning it is significantly higher. And since the boat is not the lowest need on the Maslow hierarchy, boating has happened a little bit slower, and the market has been quite traditional. But what you saw in the car industry is what's going to happen here as well in the boat. So we look at X-Shore looks at ourselves as Tesla of the water. And we were the first, and we have been here for 4 years, and we've done testing in 3 regions for 3 years. And you know that the marine space is the toughest place to test things. And we learn a lot, and we fail a lot. When we see all the research we have done, and if you see a research we did a year back from Arthur Doolittle, they're saying that in the size range that we are offering today, we will have more in the future as well. So 6.5 to 8 meter. In 27, they project that it's going to be 12,000 electrical boats out of 4 million combustion boats. And if you look at the market space today, the only one that has a blueprint assembly line production to deliver upon that need, or even close to that need, is Exshore. We are glad to see other companies like ARC coming in as well. Their challenges is their price point, because we are able to produce everything inside. And then we have also now gotten partners like Bosch that is coming in because they want to learn from us. And they see that the traditional players that are invested in legacy technology, just like we saw in the car industry when Tesla came, they are not going to be okayed by the investors to invest in new technology before they see it grow, which gives us the first mover advantage. And since it's blueprint, it means also that we have a trained staff that we can set up a shop another place tomorrow.
Do you think that other place could in the future be in North America, or do you think you'll stay in Europe?
100% North America will be the next place we go. And I'm not saying we're doing it right now, but since we are very strategic in the way we're working, we have spoken to several states. And we also looked at the benefit of the Inflation Reduction Act, which will be very beneficial for us. And knowing that half of the boat market is in North America, it makes a lot of sense. But what we did is the same as Tesla. We built a factory first, then we built the technology, and then we build scale to serve the market.
You had brought something up earlier that I don't think that we really got to touch on, and that was that while you're winterizing your boat, while it's winter and you don't want to be out on your boat, you can be plugging it into the grid and it could be making you money. Now, this goes against the normal rule of thumb, and maybe this is just an American rule of thumb, so I'm curious to hear. You probably heard it before. The happiest day in a guy who buys a boat's life is the day that he buys it and the day that he sells it. And that usually revolves around the fact that boats require a lot of maintenance. Right. And a lot of that maintenance is, of course, going to be the engine. And so you're talking about winterizing a boat. Normally that involves, paying somebody to take it out of the water for you and putting all sorts of stuff into the engine to make sure that it doesn't gum up over the winter and all of this other stuff that is really a pain and is why, those days are not that guy's favorite time. You're talking about pulling the boat out of the water, plugging it into the grid, and because it has such a large battery, it can help balance the grid out, much like a Powerwall, a Power Pack, a Mega Pack.
Last winter, we got paid from Tesla to use our 4 Powerwalls because we were helping our neighbors during really cold days.
And that is with, how many kilowatt hours are all your...
52 kilowatt hours. This thing is like 3 times as big.
So talk to me about what people could expect to make, because obviously it's going to vary, but what is kind of the general idea of it?
Now, if I look at it right now, you will probably, with everything you talked about, Jesse and Zach, you said that you're going to take the boat out of the water, you're going to clean the boat, you're going to service the whole engine, and then you're going to pay for a storage place. I guess roughly that could end up costing you $5,000.
Ouch.
Wow.
That's where the saying comes, the happiest day is when you buy it and when you sell it.
Yep.
And in this case, you don't have the service during the year, which means that the boat is not in the shop, but you can have it on the water when you want to utilize it. I noticed, at least when I shift from a combustion car to electrical car, I never have it in the service shop. I don't have services for 2 years beyond not paying for gasoline. And then instead of maybe paying $5,000 for storage in that service, you might get $3,000 back again instead.
Yep.
Wow.
It's not the happiest moment when you sell the boat.
Exactly. You don't want to let go of it.
It could be that day in December when you get the check in the mail from your energy supplier when they said, thank you for letting us use this large battery.
Yeah, I mean, you're helping make the grid more resilient.
So let me ask you this other question, because my brain wants to go there. You have this large battery pack, and this means that you could boat to a remote island where you have some off-grid cabin set up. And I think
power the cabin.
This could be a bit of an out there use case because I don't know how many people can both afford a boat and the island and the cabin. But it does excite my imagination to think that the boat could be the battery that would power the cabin while you're there, and that if you had some solar panels on the cabin, that could be used to either charge a small battery in the cabin, but mainly to be charging up your boat, not just for the return trip, but also to power the lights, the heating and air conditioning, the cooking, the cleaning.
Also throw a Starlink on it and watch Netflix.
Why would you ever have to leave?
Yeah, I think that's what you just don't want to.
I don't want to leave the island, and this would be my little battery pack. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I actually going to physically and practically try it myself this summer. My mother-in-law in Vermont, they have a very small island called Butcher Island, right outside of Burlington. Today, she's using a gas generator and solar panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my boat from Burlington, slowly but surely up the lake there, and park outside, and we're going to try it.
Nice.
That's really cool.
We should join them. We should go up there with the Cybertruck. And
I know, we're not far from Burlington.
Yeah, so come on up.
We'll see if the Cybertruck can tow it.
Yeah.
And then we should, when we're up there, we should also stop by Beta and meet Kyle, the CEO there, and see all the amazing stuff they're doing.
Totally. Yeah, we can talk to our buddy Austin.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We've got our
so
plan.
Then you have so you have the island with the helipad, the
VTOL pad.
eVTOL pad. You have the dock with the electrical hookup. I mean, this is sounding pretty cool.
This is Bond villain kind of stuff.
That's Bond. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Renee, thank you so much for talking today. This is so great. I mean, when we get into this disruptive technology, it does let your brain do new, exciting things that you could never do before. And I love that electric boats are letting us go there.
Oh, I completely agree. And for me, as a person that has come from a combustion boat and into the electrical space, and how I look at boating now very differently, but also seeing my kids that are 14 and 16, same as with the Tesla, they have very different expectation for a car experience than what we had when we bought car. And it's this whole thing about this seamless technology, right, that we talk about. And also that their expectation is that it's going to be better technology. It's going to be sustainable. The performance is going to be there. And the design is going to be modular and smart. And that's what we see with them right now, is that that generation is responding very differently to it. And both of you touched on the fact that when you parked your car 10 years ago at the parking lot in December with the engine on, no one said anything. But if you park your car with the engine up right now, next to a car with kids in it, the reaction will be, are you trying to kill my children? Mm-hmm. And the same thing is going to happen on the water. And that's the reason why Exshore right now made a decision for 4 years ago. Is like, now the technology is ripe. We can get the prices down. And we can give an option to people to move from combustion to electric and get a better experience, save money, but also be good with the nature that they actually enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee, so much. This was such a great interview. I'm so excited to check out your boats. So, folks, if you want to go check out and maybe go for a test ride, check out xshore.com. And right there, as Renee said, on their site, you can see if you can find a place near you to go for a ride.
Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to our road trip already.
Awesome. All right. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.